Familiar faces. I see a new one. How's everybody doing? Okay. My name is Lavanya Sitamraju. I work with IFITS, the Institute for Inclusive and Transformative Scholarship. We are also the Office of Undergraduate Research, and I do similar workshops for undergrads, kind of talking about how do you communicate science, whether through posters or we also do something called a lightning talk, which is based on the 3MT format. So I do those workshops, and it's really nice to be hanging out with all of you for a change. So what we will do today is, this is kind of a continuation of last week's workshop. Also not really. So even if you missed that, we will do a small recap of what we talked about last week. And then we'll just take it from there. We are a small group, so if at any point you have questions, feel free to just raise your hand. And we'll do a quick check-in. We'll go around the room. If you can share your name, your major or your scholarship area, and one thing you want to learn today. And we'll not start with Holly today. Start from the side.
Hi, my name is Sean Schumacher. I'm a fourth-year PhD program. And today I just kind of want to learn about slide formatting.
Okay, Sean, welcome.
My name is Mia. I'm in the same cohort as Sean, and I want to learn how to talk with.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a biology major and
Welcome back, Ben.
Brennan, Master of Geosciences.
Officer education and business learning.
Welcome back, Cindy.
I'm a student. I'm a staff member.
Okay. Well, glad you could join us. We're just going around the room. Share your name, your major or scholarship area, and one thing you want to learn today.
What I learned today is how to first write how the competition works. Actually, I never heard of it before, so I just want to know how it all goes and how I can my slide for effective.
Okay. We'll do a quick recap of the 3MD. We went over that last week. Were you there last week? Okay. So we'll do like a quick 1-minute recap of what the 3MD is. And then a large part of today will be talking about this slide. But the recording from last week is there, and you can reach out to Wayne and he'll share that. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a first-year environmental engineering. One thing I'd like to learn today, I did the slide was not the best. I think it's kind of distracting, so I'd like to improve how it's put together.
Yeah, and I worked with Andrew for that lightning talk, so I recognized him. And okay, well, welcome back, Andrew.
Alpha, I'm technically second year master's in engineering. I want to learn more on slides.
Awesome. Welcome back.
Holly, I'm a PhD student in biomedical engineering. What everyone else said.
That's fair enough. Okay. So yeah, like I said, we'll do a quick recap, and then we'll just jump into what your slide is going to look like. And we'll also look at some more videos, which you'll be now be able to look at it from a different perspective now that you kind of have some idea of what the slide is going to look like. And then we'll have some time for questions. Okay, so quick recap. It's not here, but what's the 3MT? It's the 3-minute thesis, and your job is to tell the story of your research in 3 minutes with just one slide. So that's your job. You cannot go over the 3-minute mark. You will get disqualified. So you have exactly 3 minutes, maybe a little bit less, and one slide. So that's what the 3-minute thesis is. Okay. So we talked about this last week, but how are we going to do that? Is we are going to tell the story of our scholarship. Why? Because why are we doing, why are we saying it's a story? People remember stories. Stories are engaging, they're memorable, and we've all grown up listening to stories. So when we hear a story, we immediately sit up and we want to learn more. So that's why with your 3-minute thesis, you're going to tell a story of your research or whatever your project is. How are you going to create your story? You're going to start with a beginning, you'll have a middle, and you'll have an end. How do all stories start? We all heard stories when we were little. They all start with what? Once upon a time. So that's your beginning. You'll create a really strong opening so people will want to listen to this. And then you'll build up your story, talk about the characters, and then you'll slowly talk about what your research is, what you're doing, and then you'll go towards the end where you wrap it all up and bring people back to why they're listening to your story. The 3 C's of this 3MT. Last week also I said if there's only one thing you take away from this presentation, it's this. Does anybody remember what those are? Yes. Engagement. It's not, the third one is not a C. I don't know why it's called a 3C. It should be 2 C's and an E, but that's it. It's comprehension, communication, and engagement. And that's what the judges are going to follow. That's the rubric for the 3MT. That's what you will be judged on. What does communication mean? Was the thesis topic and its significance communicated in a language appropriate to a non-specialist audience? What do we mean by a non-specialist audience? It's not the general public. It's people who know things, but not necessarily from your disciplinary area. So if Cindy is doing research in Montessori education, there may not be people who know what that is. They may not even know what Montessoris are. They may be geosciences, or they may be biomolecular scientists. So that's what we mean by a non-specialist audience. Comprehension. Did the presentation help the audience to understand the research? This is again very, very important. And all of these also apply to the slide. That's why we are taking some time going over this. What happens generally when people don't understand things? They stop listening. Do we want that? No. We want them to listen. We want them to engage. And that's one of the hallmarks of the 3MT, that it really engages the audience. The engagement, that the oration want the audience to know more. This is really, really important for your slide, especially because you have just 1 minute. How much can you put on a slide? Not too much, right? You cannot even begin to put everything that's in your research on your slide. So the goal really there is to get people curious about your work. Get them to understand the importance of why you're doing this, how it's going to impact the world. They don't necessarily need to know your methodology and what you did and how many people you interviewed and what kind of processes you use to distill your data. That's for your research paper. That's not for the 3MT. The 3MT is for, again, there's a non-specialist audience. It's to get people excited about all of the awesome research that's happening in the world. Think about why you do what you're doing. You're doing that because when you first learned about it, or when you were talking to the faculty about getting involved in this research project, you got excited, right? So we want to convey that same excitement to the people who are there in the audience. That's the goal, that people get really excited and say, this is real awesome work. I'm so happy you're doing this, and I am hoping you'll succeed. And make them hopeful for the future. That's again that story component. Most stories, we ignore all of the sad stories. Most stories end on what kind of a note? Positive, right? They're cheerful. They end with a note of hope. They're sometimes lessons for children. So that's what you are trying to do, because research is, at the end of the day, all about hope, about making the world or your community or whatever you're working on a better place, a little bit, slightly better place, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, we watched some 3MT videos last week, and even if you've not watched one, you've gone to class, you've listened to lectures, you watched movies. So any kind of a presentation that you've enjoyed, what has stood out the most? Yes. Right. So it's your presence, it's body language. What else? Yes. It's yes, that's a great point. It's pacing yourself. It's not, you're not reading from memory. You're having a conversation. Think of it as talking to a friend. You won't just go, you'll pause. You have variations in your tone. So that's also very important. What else? Think about all of these, because good presentations are engaging. And some of you mentioned all of this already. They make you curious. They're easy to understand. They're logical, they're relatable, and they're memorable. So all of that applies to your talk. It also applies to your slide. Because once you know what you're going to say, which is the story, which is your beginning, your middle, your end, it's time to think about the visual support for your talk. And the important thing here is the visual support. Okay? If everything's on your slide, people can just read that and they don't need to listen to you, right? So the slide there, the job of the slide is to support you. It's not there in place of you. It's going to complement what you're saying, and it's going to help you with your talk. So that's very, very important, because again, you have only one slide. So you need to be thinking very carefully about what you want on that slide and how it's going to support what you're saying. Remember that your slide is a tool to aid your talk. Your image should help the audience understand the research. Less is more. Very, very important. You only have one slide. Think about attention spans. What is that like now? It keeps going down. 10 seconds? I don't know. Present information in a logical and relatable manner. Again, that goes back to that story. Whether you're talking or whether you're putting information on your slide. And we'll look at some examples. Even on a slide, put information in a logical manner. If you have divided it into sections, make sure that it's all logical and people understand that. Ask, does the image slide help convey how your research impacts or changes the world? Why is that important? If people understand that, they'll be curious, they'll be engaged, they'll be able to understand why you're doing what you're doing. All these things are really, really important for you to help think about your image. What are the rules? You get one single PowerPoint slide. No transitions, animations, or movement of any kind is permitted. So you cannot use GIFs, you cannot use animations. Your slide is to be presented from the beginning of your oration, and no additional electronic media like sound and video files are permitted. All of this is from the 3MT website. So keep all of the rules in mind. This is from the Pipette Gazette. Again, we have talked about this a little bit, but it says that the PowerPoint slide is a trap. Do not fall for it. It's very tempting to fill up every inch of white space with things. You see a corner and then you're like, okay, I have some room there. Maybe I can put a graph. Maybe I can put this other image. Do not fall for it. It's very tempting, but it's going to make your slide very crowded. And remember, the slide is not in place of you. Who is the ultimate source of information? It's you. The slide is your visual support. It's there to help you and not to take your place. Okay, so all of this is to say, what's the one rule for creating your slide? There are no rules. We'll look at some examples and you'll get a sense of how those slides have been created. And there are many, many ways to go about it, but there are some ground rules which we talked about. The 3 C's, making it engaging, helping people relate to your research. So as long as your slide checks off all those boxes, you are good. But there are really no rules on what your slide should look like. So some questions you can ask yourself to kind of figure out what will go on that image. Think about your research. Close your eyes. What about your research pops in your head? Is it that one molecule? Or I don't know, is it that image of gathering samples from some exotic volcano? I don't know. What about your research has stayed with you? And that keeps that propels you and motivates you to do that work. Maybe that same image will engage and make the audience curious. The people it impacts, whose lives does it affect? Last week we saw a 3MT video which was about malnourishment in Guatemala. What was the image there? Does anybody remember? Yeah, it was children. Images like that are very, very powerful. They stay with us. Cindy remembered it. That's proof enough that it was a very powerful image. The bad guys. You're doing cancer research. Let people see what those molecules look like. Nobody knows. I don't know what cancer looks like. And maybe you've seen it, and that's really powerful. Put that up. The technology. Are you working on the next coolest thing and you want people to see what that microchip looks like? Nobody knows what microchips look like. Maybe you show a really magnified picture and maybe that really looks cool. And that makes people want to sit up and say, wow, this looks really interesting. I want to know more. And you've hooked them. And what you do in the next 3 minutes is then up to you. But at least they have your attention. The process. Maybe you climbed, I don't know, the tallest peak in Idaho and gathered samples there. Or maybe you dived into the ocean and got samples from a coral reef. I don't know. Maybe that process was really fascinating and people want to see that. Put that up. Put a picture of that. If not, if this research did not happen, what will the world look like? Like that image of the children with stunted growth. That's what happens if children don't get the nourishment they need. So stuff like that is again very powerful. So all these are ideas, food for thought for you to be thinking about your image. Okay. Some quick pointers on where you find your images, and I have some examples from 3MT presentations, and we'll then look at some videos. Photographs. Very easy to do this. We all have cameras. We all have phones with very good cameras. Use a photograph. This is a screenshot of an actual 3MT presentation, and this is the 3MT slide. So it's an actual photograph. I don't know what the talk was about, but this was the slide they used. Also, a photograph with other elements. Honeybees. This research about honeybees, so they got an actual honeybee and they kind of put things around it. and try to talk about it. This is an image from a microscope of that tumor and all of that. What I'm assuming that's what the research is about. So this was the 3MT slide. You can also create or curate your own image to support your narrative. This is from this is a conference that our office organizes. It's called the Idaho Conference on Undergraduate Research. This is before my time. I just put this image here because it looked very interesting. Somebody grew those letters in a petri dish and took a picture. It was really cool. Again, another 3MT image. This is curated in the sense that somebody took a picture of a drawing, put these instruments around it, and a pair of gloves. Can anybody guess what this research might be? Yes. Asbestos? Okay, any other guesses? Yeah, I actually was able to find this 3MT talk while I was looking for images. So we'll watch that. I don't know. I didn't watch all of it, but it's something related to kids and children in hospitals. So we'll watch that. Let's watch that and see what we think of how this image supports the talk. Another example. The reason this is blurry is because this is a screenshot I took of the 3M from YouTube. That's why it's blurry, but otherwise it's not. Again, there is no rules. Somebody decided to put the chemical reaction that they are working on, right? But it's really clear. I can make out what the words are. I can see that there's some kind of a reaction. It makes me curious of what these things are without overwhelming me, right? So it probably works. Again, like I said, there are no rules. It depends on how you make it work for your talk. This is created. It's all animation. They decided to, this probably is like the bad guy. PFAS are the molecules. And they have some interesting stuff here. I don't know what all of that means, but it makes me curious when I see the pizza, I see all of the fast food, and I see some data there. It makes me want to learn more. So this is something that's created in Canva or through some animation. This is a very interesting 3MT slide because what is this? It's a graph, right? It's a graph with some data about how women changed medicine. But what the presenter did is that they made the graph really interesting. Instead of just having the bars, they put some images inside. They labeled it clearly. When I see that, I know this is something about women. So it makes me curious, and I want to know more about this graph. I'm assuming this talk was about explaining this graph. That's the presenter might have spent a lot of time just talking about this graph. So again, no rules, but remember, it has to be clear, engaging, make the audience want to learn more and make them curious. Okay, because 3MT is a global competition, be very careful where you get your images from. These are some sources: Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay, creativecommons.org. Don't be very careful of copyright laws. If you use images that you're not allowed to use and somebody sees it, they will sue Boise State, and that's not going to be fun. Even on Google, when you're looking for images, make sure you only use images that you have permission to use. For the lightning talks that Andrew was part of, a student found an image that was from an article by the United Nations Human Rights Commission. So she wanted to really use that. And she asked me, I think I can email them and see if I can get permission. I wasn't sure if she would even get a response, but she emailed them and she got a response and they let her use that image. So if you find something like that, you are a student that has a lot of power. You reach out to somebody, they see a boisestate.edu and maybe they want to open it and give you that permission to help you advance your knowledge. So be creative, think outside the box of where you'll get images from, but make sure you have permission. I put these slides here because all of this goes together. Is there another workshop on page presence? Yeah. So a lot of this might get covered there. So I'll not spend a lot of time here, but very important when we watch the videos today, watch out for these because it all comes together. It's not just the slide. It's not just your story. It's a combination of that along with your body language, your presence, and how you kind of put forth all of that. Speak clearly. Use variety in your voice, like Andrew pointed out. Do not rush. Find your rhythm, and remember to pause at key points. Again, this will get covered next week, but remember body language is very, very important. Stand straight, don't turn your back to the audience, practice. I cannot say this enough number of times, but practice is extremely, extremely important. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. And there is no way around that practice. Do not roll back and forth on your heels, spacing for no reason, or playing with your hair, as these habits are distracting for the audience. Okay, who's ready to watch some videos? Yeah, it's about time. Yeah, I saw some of you yawning, so.
Okay, next up is Talene Latimer, Department of Communications in the College of the Arts and Sciences. Buffalo native, Talene began learning sign language 2016, I believe, and you have been signing ever since. And Talene loves to read, and by that I mean Talene loves to read. Last year alone, she read 80 non-academic books. That is, I think that's the definition of well read. Talene, are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
You can keep your hand raised. Who knows someone who's had Alzheimer's?
So the image is going to go away because the camera just zooms in on her, but I wanted to pause here and give all of you a chance to look at that image. No rules. Keep that image in mind. Think about how she's talking, and I'll point out something after we watch this video, but after we finish watching, we'll take some time to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. Nobody's perfect, right? So maybe there are things you didn't like about this presentation, so we'll do a bit of analysis.
Alzheimer's disease or dementia. You can break the 90-degree rule and look around really quick. I keep my hand raised with you as someone who was a caregiver for over 6 years. And as we lower our hands, I want to acknowledge this is an issue that's impacted the majority of us. Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, known as ADRD, are terminal, and they affect 3 things: our thinking, functioning, and 1 in 3 adults will develop this disease, and given the growing aging population, it's expected that those numbers will more than double in the next 10. Yet ADRD research lacks diversity. It focuses on mainly white and English-speaking populations. That's not representative of everyone in the US, and it's certainly not representative of just us here today. One group that's continually overlooked is the deaf community, despite hearing loss being one of the highest predictors of developing this disease. And by deaf, we're talking about capital D deaf people. They are a unique minority with their own language, culture, and community, and they see their deafness as part of their identity, not something to be changed. My research looks to bridge this gap by understanding how do we promote equitable aging and end-of-life care for deaf populations affected by ADHD. To do this, I went to the community. For over 2 years, I worked with the Alzheimer's Association, deaf community organizations, and deaf caregivers to try to understand what barriers face this group. The community shared with me that they did not have a single resource available to them in sight. They shared that care facilities were not prepared to take care of deaf patients and that their loved ones were isolated and dying alone. And they shared that they had waited their whole lives to see change, that they were angry and they were tired. It was really quite simple. Deaf caregivers wanted to be able to learn about ADRD in their own language, care for their loved ones, and be part of this change. So here's what I'm doing. I've started by evaluating top resources to make them more accessible. This includes translating into sign language. I'm providing care guidelines for organizations looking to work with this population and involving deaf caregivers in this process. I'm continuing to meet with the community, making sure their voices are heard. If you look at the screen behind me, you'll see the flowers from the Alzheimer's Association walk, each color representing something. Orange for those supporting the cause, purple for those who have lost someone, yellow for caregivers, and blue for those living with the disease. But the white flower, representing the first person cured from Alzheimer's. We continue to hope for that white flower and that we will see a cure one day. But until then, I continue my research to support the deaf community as they navigate health in a hearing world. Thank you.
Okay. Thoughts on that? What did you like? What did you not like? Yes.
Her story followed a nice logical progression.
Mm-hmm.
It ended with orient the audience immediately.
Yeah, right. That's a great point. If you notice, for a majority of the talk, she doesn't even talk about the slide. Right? So who's the audience looking at? Maybe they're looking at the slide, but most of them are looking at her, and she uses a lot of gestures. She uses all of that sign language. So the way she structured her talk is when she tells people to look at the slide, that's when they look at her. Towards the end, she starts describing all of the things on her slide, and that's when she's expecting people to look at the slide. Right? What else? Sorry, say that again. She was using sign language. Yeah, that was again very powerful because she's talking about a community that uses sign language. Okay, what else? She did that. She followed that sequence of starting out with a context, talking about her research, and then kind of ending on a hopeful note. What else? Okay, let's look at the next one. The point here being, look at that slide, look at how she's made that slide work. This is, again, like I said, there are no rules. She could have done this differently. She could have maybe taken a picture of an actual Alzheimer's patient from that community and put that picture there and say, this is Lavanya, is a patient who has Alzheimer's, and talked about that as a story. There are many ways to do it. It all depends on what is important to you and what your research is about and what makes you excited about your work. Okay, this is that image we saw a little while ago. So this is from a University of Queensland 2019 3MT talk. And the person who gave this talk his name was Cody Freer. So we'll watch it. Let's watch this.
Often it begins. In Ellie's case, it was a spilled pan of hot oil, causing serious burns to her arms and legs. When I first met her in the Children's Burn Center, she impressed me not only with her resilience, but her in-depth knowledge of the Teletubbies. This girl could get a PhD in Tinky Winky Dipsy La La and Co. While undergoing treatment for her burns, she would reenact the scene from episode 67, classic, where an ever-growing mass of tubby custard threatens to overtake the Teletubbies' home before this guy, their sentient vacuum cleaner Nunu, swoops in to clean it up, save the day. Actually, the scene was a good analogy for what was going on inside the burn. Thermal injuries, like custard-related disasters, are highly dynamic. Ones that might at first appear small can grow in severity due to the body's own rogue immune body responses. My PhD focuses on a medical treatment that could act like a Nunu for burns in children. It's called negative pressure wound therapy, and it works by applying a vacuum to the wound. This is hypothesized to improve healing by removing rogue immune cells, decreasing swelling, and directly stimulating the growth of new skin cells and blood vessels. This technology has been widely used in the treatment of other wound types, but it's never been properly studied in the setting of burns. To fill the gap, I performed a clinical trial comparing the current standard of care, antimicrobial dressings, to a combination of standard dressings plus negative pressure. We tracked over 100 children throughout their recovery, and when all was said and done, those with negative pressure fared significantly better. They were 73% less likely to require long-term management, and if given negative pressure within 48 hours of their injury, healed an average of 3 days faster. 3 days. To put that in perspective, you can watch 173 episodes of the Teletubbies in 3 days. Now, there were technical issues with the apparatus that could be improved, but healing 3 days faster means 1 fewer painful and expensive dressing change. More importantly, a reduced risk of permanent scar formation. See, for the almost 1,200 children in Queensland serious burn every year, scarring is a major, potentially life-altering risk. In fact, development will require repeated operations. Brings me back to Ellie, who didn't receive negative pressure. The last time I saw her, she wasn't pretending to be Nunu. She wasn't playing at all. She was too worried about people seeing her scars. Scars caused by spilled oil, a chaotic biological response. I hope this research will help pave the way for improved burn care. Provide a Nunu for children like Ellie, who don't deserve to bear lifelong scars with a simple accident.
Okay, thoughts on that one? Yes, we'll go to you.
I was going to say, the episode talked about the children. So, most of the talk, I don't think that's very engineered.
And that's what I was saying.
Yeah, those are that's a great point. And when we saw the image earlier, just by looking at the image, it cues us in that it's something related to children. So with that image, the speaker manages to create that